In 1973, a man stood on a Manhattan sidewalk and called his rival. Joel, I'm making the first phone call. Yeah, from the first cell phone. Joel Engel was trying to build the same thing, and he just lost to Martin Cooper. 50 years later, I run a telecoms company, but my relationship with mobile phones started very differently. With a device, I couldn't even afford to put a SIM card in. And what I learned as a kid changes how I think about the future of technology. Here's what most people miss about technological change. They focus on the devices, the specs, the features, the megapixels. But the real story is infrastructure, the invisible networks that make everything possible. And therefore, the future won't look like a better smartphone. It will look like something we have not imagined yet. I've been thinking about this for 25 years, since I was a kid playing with mobile phones I couldn't afford. Let me take you through what I learned. I was around 10 years old in my hometown in Lloret de Mar when I saw the first mobile phone up close. A friend's mother had a Nokia 5110 through work. Chunky thing, an antenna poking out at the top, but I was mesmerized. And when she upgraded to a 3210, my friend got given the 5110. We played with it together for ages until eventually I bought it from him. Now here's the thing, I couldn't afford a SIM card. My parents were certainly not going to pay for one. So I just explored the menus, learned how everything worked. I played Snake a ton. Eventually I saved enough from odd jobs to buy a prepaid SIM. Maybe it was like 1,000 pesetas because I think we hadn't converted to euros back then. And suddenly I could send messages, I could send SMS. Me and my friends who also had mobile phones developed our unique language, condensing words together so they could fit in 160 characters, not to use more than one SMS. Every single letter counted. When I moved to the UK years later, I discovered English kids had a completely different syntax, obviously in English, and with obviously completely different abbreviations. All the Spanish shortcuts I learned were useless. That was my first lesson. Language evolves based on constraints. Technology shapes how we communicate. After the 5110, I worked my way through phone after phone. I remember the Alcatel One Touch with its duck-like ringtones. You remember that one? It sounded like a duck. The Nokia 3210 with the ringtone composer, it had 7 notes across 3 octaves, and I spent hours creating melodies in that thing. The 3310 with the upgraded Snake, and the rubber case 5210 that I once threw across a public square, and then the tiny 8210. I love showing that one off. But each phone taught me something, not just about technology, but what happens when you put powerful tools in people's hands. They find ways to use them that nobody predicted. But the real shift for me came when I bought my first brand new mobile phone. I worked with my father at a tourist venue in Spain. We photographed people arriving for a flamenco show. We developed the photos while they were watching the show, and then we went table to table selling the photos. And at the end of the night, we tallied up the sales and we got paid commission. From that money, I walked into a Movistar shop or a Movistar shop and bought a brand new Nokia 7250. Purple and black, camera, color screen, revolutionary at the time. I felt like an astronaut with the latest technology in my pocket. Everyone I showed it to was genuinely interested, and for a moment it was at the cutting edge. And that feeling of being at the forefront of what is possible, I've been chasing that feeling ever since. But then came January 2007.
Every once in a while, a revolutionary product comes along.
I've been using Macs for years, but this was different. It was the most polished product presentation I'd ever seen. I bought an iPhone as soon as I could, which happened to be, I think, late 2007, maybe early 2008, funded by DJing money. The thing is, everybody around me was using BlackBerries. The BlackBerry is for business, they told me. The iPhone's for teenagers watching movies. I disagreed. I thought the iPhone was the future. Even though that first iPhone didn't even have copy-paste, you couldn't change the icons on the home screen, you couldn't even change the wallpaper. But the attention to detail was extraordinary. Apple and Steve Jobs cared about every element. I think Jony Ive under Steve Jobs was one of the best designers the world has ever seen. Steve pushed him to focus on what mattered. I tried a BlackBerry Curve around 2010, carried 2 phones for a couple of months. The typing was faster, but then eventually I returned to iPhone. The overall experience was simply better, and that taught me something crucial about technology. Features don't win, experience wins. But I'm a curious person, so when Google announced the Pixel line in 2016, I paid attention. They promised pure Android, the operating system as Google intended it. No manufacturer bloatware like you get with Samsung devices. I tried the Pixel 1 and it felt a little bit unpolished compared to the iPhone, so I sent it back. But then sometime later I tried the Pixel 3 and that was different. I switched completely and ended up using the Pixel for 2 years. The camera was just remarkable. Google's computational photography just produced images that were better than the iPhone. That's despite having worse camera specifications. The software made the difference. But I was deep in the Apple ecosystem. I had a MacBook, I had an Apple Watch, I had an iPad. So using an Android phone created constant friction. My Apple Watch didn't really work without an iPhone. File transfers between devices was a pain. I even tried a Samsung Galaxy S20 for a week. Their bloatware reminded me of everything that's wrong with Windows. Apps that nobody needed baked into the system. The camera, despite impressive megapixels, produced photos that were worse than my Pixel. So I sent the S20 back immediately. Eventually I turned back to the iPhone and I ended up staying. The ecosystem integration is just too valuable to sacrifice. My MacBook, my iPad, my Apple Watch, my iPhone, they just communicate together seamlessly. Apple built something genuinely difficult to compete with. But here's what fascinates me. Behind all these devices, the infrastructure. Every generation of mobile phone technology operates in different frequencies. 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G all require different equipment on the masts. Antennas upgraded, replaced, maintained. 5G uses millimeter waves, impressive speeds, but they travel only 300 meters and struggle to go through buildings. Therefore, carriers need more antennas placed closer together. I see small cells appearing everywhere now, mounted on lampposts on street corners, no bigger or taller than the lamppost itself. These are distributed networks, replacing massive fenced-off masts. The engineering is remarkable. Billions of people communicating from almost anywhere, and we barely think about it. So what comes next? I've been following the Jony Ive and Sam Altman collaboration at I/O. Reports suggest a pocket-sized screenless device. I hear it's not a wearable, not glasses, not earbuds, but something completely new, possibly launching this year in 2026. Altman describes it as bringing peace and calm instead of constant notifications and flying screens. An AI with contextual awareness of your whole life. I'm cautiously optimistic. Ive is world-class. But I think Steve Jobs brought out his best work. Sam Altman understands AI deeply, but he's not a product visionary in the same mold. Whether they produce something truly revolutionary, I don't know. I think the smartphone will likely persist for quite a few years. Apple and Google have built ecosystems extraordinarily difficult to displace. See, it's not just hardware. They've built app stores, developer communities, habits of billions. But it's true the interface is evolving. We will use voice more as AI understands natural language better. And with MCP servers, that's Model Context Protocol, which translate human intentions into API calls, bridging large language models with existing applications. And this is happening now. I see a future where we interact with computing through whichever means is most convenient at the time. Sometimes text, sometimes voice, sometimes vision, eventually perhaps even neural interfaces, though that's still a little bit science fiction for now. The devices may become more ephemeral, not one that does everything, but multiple specialized tools that we reach for when needed. The interface adapting to context rather than us adapting to it. I don't think anybody predicted that a kid in Spain would end up running a telecoms company. Nobody predicted that brick-sized phones would end up being supercomputers in our pockets. And nobody can predict what exactly is coming next. But we can prepare for it by building technology that adapts, that meets people where they are, that evolves with how humans want to interact. And that's exactly how we're thinking about it at WeUC and Circle Cloud. So here's what I've learned from 25 years with mobile phones. Features don't win. Experience wins. The iPhone succeeded not because of the specs, but because every element was considered. The interface, the form factor, the invisible details. Ecosystems create locking. Once you're deep in with Apple or Google, it's really difficult to move. That is competitive advantage built over decades. It won't disappear overnight. Infrastructure enables everything. We focus on devices, but the real magic is in the networks. The antennas, the protocols, the engineering that connects billions. When 5G required 10 times more masts, the carriers built them. And that's how progress happens. Constraints shape creativity. SMS character limits created new languages. These message limitations made us curate carefully. It's because limitations force innovation in ways that abundance never does. And being at the cutting edge matters. That feeling I had with the Nokia 7250, showing my friends something they'd never seen, being ahead of what was possible, that drives me still. That's why I think about the future so much. Not just abstract speculation, but because of what I'm building. At WeUC, we create unified communication software. Voice, messaging, video for businesses. Right now, it runs on phones, tablets, computers, the devices people use today. But those devices will change. The interfaces will evolve, and we must evolve with them. I want to maintain that feeling of being at the forefront of technology, presenting something intuitive and frictionless, whatever devices people use to communicate in the future. Martin Cooper made that first call in 1973, and over 50 years of transformation followed. From brick phones to supercomputers in our pockets, from physical keypads to touchscreens to voice assistants. The next 50 years will bring changes we can't even imagine, but the principles remain. Build for experience, not specs. Build infrastructure that adapts, and build with craft and attention to detail. The mobile phone transformed how we connect. The next transformation is already beginning, and I intend to be a part of building it. If this resonated and you care about how technology evolves and what it means for business, you know what to do. And if you want my founder and CEO operating system framework, click the link in the description. I document everything I'm learning, running a telecoms company, building a software business, the intersection between technology and human experience. If you're building something, whether software or a company, this channel's for you. I share what I learn along the way, the wins and the failures, the observations and the questions. I spent 25 years fascinated by mobile phones, from a kid who couldn't afford a SIM card to running a telecoms business. That journey taught me that the future belongs to people who prepare for it, who build adaptable systems, and who care about the craft. Martin Cooper beat Joel Engel to that first call because Motorola moved faster. It was 90 days from contest to prototype. So speed matters, preparation matters, vision matters. Whatever it is that comes next, voice interfaces, AI companions, neural links, or something we've not yet imagined, the people who win will be the ones ready to adapt. And I plan on being one of them. See you in the next one.